Overlord's Lizardman arc is still Overlord, and it's the best arc there's been so far. For all the why are the Lizardmen important questions I kept hearing from other people's videos to the posts I saw friends sharing, I decided to go out of my comfort zone and watch a currently airing show for the first time in almost a year. I was confused at first with everyone asking why are the lizards in my Overlord. I was seeing memes calling Overlord shit for having lizards. And while I can agree that it's not really the best show out there, it is one of my more preferred isekai shows. Ainz isn't exactly the most interesting character, but I don't think he's meant to be. For all purposes, Overlord was always about the world. The first season served as a setup to this world. We learned about the characters of Nazarick and the immediate areas surrounding it, but not too much about the new world itself and what became of Yggdrasil after it was shut down. Sure, we're hinted at some of that, but that's exactly where the Lizardman Heroes arc comes in. The second season of Overlord begins with Ainz and Albedo examining a makeshift map of the world, and Ainz questioning who he should be weary of in the future. Don't forget that he's still on the lookout for anyone who may have survived through the shutdown of Yggdrasil, and thus Albedo warns Ainz to be weary of everyone. The fear of other life is perpetuated by figuring out how Shaltir Bloodfallen was possessed, and the possibility that the one who controlled her could also be a remnant of Yggdrasil. This is the setup. This is exactly why the Lizardmen exist. They are another life form that Ainz is unfamiliar with. This story is not about Ainz Ooal Gown being the Overlord. This story is about Ainz Ooal Gown exploring the new world he's unfamiliar with. And at the end of the first episode, we meet the Lizardmen and get stuck with them for the next 4 or so episodes. So what was the problem with these Lizardmen? Was it the hot lizard sex? Was it that they were boring? Was the pacing off? Were they not fantasy enough? While those did encompass some issues for people, from what I gather, the general problem is they weren't Ainz. They weren't Ainz Ooal Gown being a complete badass. The overpowered flashiness of this show ended, and the series actually started getting to exploring the world. Through the entire rest of this arc, we learn the ways of the Lizardmen, their different tribes and how each function. Yeah, there's a lot to be desired for the explanations and characterizations of said tribes, and I'd love to learn more about the intertribal war. But I assume the light novel explains a bit more on all of that. From the ground up, we learn about this new society, one that we didn't know existed at all within this world. A society that Ainz was looking for, one that could possibly harness an old player of Yggdrasil. But people kept questioning, why do the Lizardmen matter? This is my Overlord! We're learning about this world, the world that Ainz wanted to learn about. What exists out there, what we didn't know was there, and the Lizardmen are going to be only one of many different things Ainz and his crew encounter. Would the arc have been better if we just saw these Lizardmen brush through like they were weak and meaningless to the overall story? Of course not. We needed to spend time with them so we could see how the other factions view Ainz and how they fare against him. How different societal structures and ways of life conflict with Ainz as the Overlord, and if these civilizations harbor any players. This is just the start of Overlord going into a more broad story, I feel. If the first season is akin to Ainz walking outside his parents' house for the first time, the Lizardman Heroes arc is Ainz being able to leave without supervision. Eventually Ainz won't have a curfew, or will move out of his parents' house entirely, or in scope of the show, maybe he'll meet someone who can match him in power. But in a show about the exploration of the world, should the world itself be neglected? Should we be made to feel that the inhabitants of the world are just cannon fodder and meaningless, or should we feel that they have their own lives and systems outside the bubble of Nazarick? Sure, Ainz may not have found a player of Yggdrasil in his first target, but he secured new allies, even if by force. So let's chill out. Let's see how the Men in the Kingdom arc progresses before making any more rash decisions like Overlord Season 2 is the worst thing since the most recent worst anime in history and give it time to spread its wings. It's not about getting an overpowered payoff each episode from Ainz. It's about us figuring out the mysteries of this world alongside Ainz.